Welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast, where those who refuse to let odds or naysayers stand in their way come to chase and catch their true calling. I'm your host, Mark Crandall. In each episode, we shine a spotlight on artists and musicians who dare to dream bigger. You'll hear the real-world tactical moves these Purpose Chasers have taken to carve out their legacies, and I'll break down the marketing strategies you can swipe and implement today. Let's dive in and start chasing our purpose. Don't forget to leave a follow on Spotify or wherever you stream from. Let's dive into this episode.
Nah, dude, nothing.
Cool. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back, Purpose Chasers, to this episode of the Purpose Chasers podcast. I'm excited in a unique kind of way. So as all of you know, as Justin and I have commingled our podcast with the Purpose and Movement Mastermind, I have only been introduced to one individual thus far by Justin. And as you know, I have not asked Justin for anything, which I easily could have asked him for intros to all kinds of people, but it just hasn't made any sense. And so when Justin made the intro to Rob Mack, who is on the podcast today, I instantly replied. Actually, maybe we did the little lingo, like the email was sent. We're like, who's going to pop first? Right. That whole thing. And yeah, he's on the podcast now. He's invited me out to LA to come on his television broadcast that he's a part of. I don't know much about him other than what I've read on his website. I don't know him as an authentic human. I'm just really excited to do this interview based off of the introduction that was made. So Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I just want to acknowledge that we had one reschedule already. I think I booked him like Saturday. I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, it's double booking. But I got to first, dude, I just so appreciate you having me on, man. I love what you're doing with the podcast. Genuinely, of course, mutual love for Justin, right? So, and I love that you didn't, read too much online because, you never know what you find there. And it's always nice to just have an authentic, like organic conversation with people. It's my favorite thing. It's what I kind of live for anyway,
So for Justin to make an intro for you to come on the show, he knows how passionate I am about this, how this community, this Purpose Chasers community is absolutely my baby. It's something that when I get down and I get in limiting beliefs, I went in there this afternoon and there's people celebrating wins because it's Celebrate Friday, right? Like I go in there and I see and I heart stuff and I comment and I get excited. So I'm curious, why, in 5 minutes of knowing me, why do you think Justin would have made this intro for you to come on and talk to my audience here?
It's a great question, man. I think probably because of what I've struggled with and what I've been challenged with. I think it's pretty relatable. I grew up in a great family, man. I had lots of love. We were all healthy and we didn't have a whole lot of money, but we had a lot of love. And I was very depressed, like deeply depressed, man. And I was so depressed that I eventually came around to like really exploring and like researching ways to kill myself. So, that experience with like suicidal ideation and just deep, dark depression, despite things in the outside world, like in my external condition and circumstances being like pretty good, like objectively things were good, but subjectively on the inside, I was a mess, man. And I hated myself.
How old were you when those thoughts started?
I remember, for as long as I remember being alive, I remember one, hating myself, and two, being absolutely, totally miserable. Like feeling like I should feel more gratitude because I've got these incredible parents. I should feel more gratitude. I've got a brother and sister and like we've got a house, and I would try to force myself to feel these things that I just didn't feel. So as long as I can remember being alive, I remember being depressed and miserable, and I would say that the suicidal thoughts started probably around 12 or 13. They went through my mid-20s, and I would say I had as many suicidal thoughts as I did any other kind of thoughts in my life, quite frankly. I would say that for me, at least, I think I would always joke and say, look, unless you've been through something very hard and you've been depressed or you've experienced a period of your life when you felt kind of suicidal, I have a hard time trusting you. It would always be a joke, but there's some truth to that. So I think it's probably just some of the stuff that I've gone through that might be somewhat relatable to people out there. I'm not sure.
Oh, really relatable. Yeah. Now I see why Justin introed us. And it's funny because when Justin and I, when we had our coffee date, we're sitting there and we're sharing, we just got into, like, it started out with like, let's talk about podcasts and let's talk about this. And I was like, dude, I want to know you as a person. And when you've been through some shit in life, you can instantly tell, like, these are my people. And I would just like,
I get shivers, bro. I get shivers. It's like connecting with you right now. I can feel it. I get the shivers. It's like my, I don't know. It's like a soul test. It's like a test of truth. And like, I get shivers. It's right here in LA. It's like 85 degrees, but I'm freezing right now because I can feel the resonance, man. So I'm with you on that, man. In my whole life, I always wanted these kind of conversations. I wanted to connect with people like you and Justin. But I didn't feel like I could find them very easily, especially when I was younger.
So you're 20 years old. What was the transition for you? How did you go from suicidal ideation and hating yourself to, guys, if you're not following me on Instagram @ThePurposeChasers, go watch this video and check out how sharply dressed this man is. I mean, he is looking good.
I'm almost as sharply dressed as your haircut is, man. You're like,
I know.
Fresh out the barber shop right there. That's fresh, dude.
I just got it about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
But so what was the transition for you? What was the awakening for you to step out of that dark place?
Man, great point. So I'd say I like learned everything the hard way, man. And so what happened with me is I eventually got to a place because, I was mostly struggling with this idea that, look, like no matter what I accomplish or achieve, none of it seems to like really bring any sense of real fulfillment. Like it just feels empty, all of it. And not just that, but like, even if I were to accomplish something 10x to what I had accomplished at that point in time in my 20s, I was like, well, one day it's going to be all of you taken away. And the people that I'm working so hard to get to like me or love me, and I'm working so hard to love or like, are also going to be taken away by death. So why wait? Like, so eventually I went online, I started doing research, man. And I basically was looking up ways to kill myself. And I realized I didn't have access to a lot of the means and methods. Like I didn't have a gun, I didn't want to throw myself off a building, off a bridge. It just felt too violent. I didn't want to experience pain. That was the point of killing myself, was to experience less pain. So eventually I came around and said, look, I'm just going to slash my wrist. I'll slit my wrist. And so, I went into the kitchen, I got a knife, man, and I just dug it in. And quite frankly, I was, again, I don't like pain. And so I started digging into my wrist. And the first initial thought was like, let's see how painful this is going to be. I've never cut that deep into my wrist. I've had accidents and stuff before. So, but something strange happened, man. Like, as I started digging in my wrist, I felt total peace and even bliss, like kind of wash over me without a change in circumstances or conditions. And like, for the first time in my life, I felt an overwhelming sense of like subjective well-being, of like peace. And at that very moment, I thought, this is odd, man. Like, nothing's changed on the outside, but everything on the inside feels different, at least in this moment. So like, I was just like, I'm going to postpone this suicide thing for like an hour. No more than that, man. I wasn't even committed to the hour, quite frankly. I was like, but I should just do a little research. Like, I should look and see, what's going on here with me. Maybe there's more to the story. So I started doing some research, and that hour slipped into several hours, and then it slipped into several days, which slipped into several years. The whole time I kept doing research. I was reading everybody and everything I could get my hands on, and I was listening to everybody. And I was asking questions of people. Like, I might meet you in a coffee shop or just randomly, and I'd be like, yo, you seem like you had a smile on your face. Like, why is it that you're happy? Like, what are you happy about? Like, how do you do that? Do you feel that way often? I just made a study of like happiness and like what leads to it and what doesn't. And so just inch by inch, man, I just kind of dug myself out of this hole. Now, mind you, most of that time, I still had the suicidal thoughts, and I still had this idea that worst comes to worst, I'm going to kill myself if this doesn't work. Like, if any of these things don't work and I don't feel like a significant difference in my life, I'll still have the option of killing myself. But over time, those thoughts were less frequent and they were less intense. And then one day I kind of woke up and I was like, I haven't had those thoughts in the way that I have been having them for a while. And I started tracking what was working too. Like, the whole time I was like, this sounds right. I'm going to try to do that for a while, and I'll see if it actually works. Not just because science says it works, because this guy who's successful or happy says it works, but like, does it work for me? So anyway, that's kind of the way I began making my transition out of like this period of dark, deep, like dysphoria and depression into something that was at least close to the flatlining, and then over time it went beyond that into something that was, quite positive and happy and fulfilling.
And what were you doing at the time? Like, as far as
Work.
like career, were you in school? Like what were you up to in life?
Yeah. So, I went to school, and when I graduated from school, I went to work for a management consulting firm. Didn't know what management consulting really was. But I knew that I had interviewed and they said, hey, we offer you a job. Sounded like good money. Didn't know what else to do with my life. Started doing that. So I was working for that consulting company, and, I hated the work, man. I hated the 9 to 5, the grind. It wasn't even 9 to 5. It was like 7 to like 8 or 9 at night. And then after that, you had to have dinners with people, and the people were great, but I just it didn't like really resonate with me. It didn't connect with me. And I felt like I wanted to be doing more. Like I felt like there was a deeper passion and purpose that I had yet to discover, that I should be living out or something. So I started reading every book I could on purpose and passion for 10 years, man. It took me 10 years to like even scratch the surface on what I wanted to do with my life. But that taught me a lot. So, I did the consulting thing. At some point in time, I knew that continuing to travel in the way that I was and work the hours I was working and doing the work I was doing was not obviously leading to a happy life. So
but you kept, I just want to pause you real quick, but you kept doing research. I just want to share with you listening. So I recently recorded a solo episode, and I talked about purpose and how everyone wants to find their purpose. And it's like, in the influencer space, that there's these buzzwords that go around. Purpose is one of these buzzwords. And everyone acts like you are either going to walk into Walmart and purchase a buy one, get one free on purpose, or it's going to fall in your lap. And that's not been my experience. My experience has been, my purpose has transcended, right? It's like grown the more and more action I take. So I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that you said I researched for 10 years.
yeah, dude, that is gold. That's platinum right there, bro. That's like triple platinum. Like that's really hot, man. And you're right about that. And I was under the impression that I would just read it or find it in a book, or I'd find it online, and there'd be like a magic pill or a magic statement or sentence or paragraph that would but it never happened that way. It never happened that way, man. And so what I did instead was, I was like, look, I might never find this passion or figure this passion and purpose thing out. I might never figure it out. It's been 10 years and I haven't even gotten, anywhere with it, despite reading the greatest, most prolific authors and books. And so at some point I was like, well, the one thing I do know is I don't like cold weather. Like it was that simple. I don't like cold weather. I don't like this job. And I like the idea of living in Miami in the sun and spending more time at the beach. That's all I knew. Now, how I could do it, I had no idea. I didn't have like all this money saved up. But lo and behold, an opportunity came along where I was like, oh, if I go back to business school, which the consulting company kind of wanted me to do anyway, but I go to business school in Miami, then I can just kind of see what unfolds from there. But if I don't act on the one piece of information I have, which is that I like warm weather and I don't like this job, then I might never be given more information. Like it's like when your parents say you got to finish your dinner before you get dessert. It was like that kind of experience. It's like, okay, let me act on this one thing I know, which is I like warm weather. And then I made the move. And then when the move happened, the next step unfolded. And then the next step. And I realized, just like you said, you don't need to see this whole staircase. You just got to see the next step and then act and take that next step.
In most humans, and I've coached and practiced therapy with hundreds, if not thousands of individuals over the years, most humans will never take that first step. And it doesn't make, and this is something that I talk about all the time inside of the Purpose Chasers community and in the academy. It's like, it makes no sense. It literally makes absolutely no sense. It's not going to make sense until you take that one action. And that action that you come up with in your mind, you have limiting beliefs that are going to tell you it's a horrible idea. And what separates the people that the people that are about to live truly fulfilling lives from the people that are going to be miserable until their death is walking through those limiting beliefs to take that one action. Right? So you're in your head, you're like, oh, I want to go to the beach. Sounds simple. I want to go to Miami, but you didn't stop. You took the action, correct?
You just nailed it. That's exactly right. And it took me a while to commit to the action. I would just keep putting it off and say that's unrealistic. And it goes against everything everybody smart in my life told me I should do. They're like, if you move to Miami, you're a consultant right now, management consulting, and you're on this path and this upward sort of trajectory in terms of your career. If you go to Miami and go away from Philadelphia, away from New York City, where it's really at the hub of consulting, you're going to have a hard time finding a job. There's not great education there. There's not great healthcare there. I mean, all the reasons were good and valid that they gave me for not moving to Miami. But nonetheless, I couldn't help what I felt on the inside. So eventually I said, well, even their best advice, even their most well-intentioned guidance is leaving me feeling miserable. What's the point of living if I'm going to live miserably? So yes, I eventually just acted on it and said, hey, this may be the end of me. Maybe it's the end, but already I'm unhappy. So can't get any worse from here, really. So I acted. You're absolutely right.
So there you are. He's having their trucks currently delivering purpose, cases of purpose.
Right, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good. Hey,
it's good, and all of a sudden.
Dude, I mean, like people that try to record perfect podcast episodes, not all of us can be Joe Rogan who records in a soundproof studio, So you get to Miami. I just think it's brilliant, man. I think about like your story reminds me of my own, where I was always, and I did some research on you, and I saw that we were very, very in line. Most people think that fulfillment is an external thing. It's the car or the girl or the job. Or if I ask people, I have a trick question that I ask. Maybe I shouldn't share it on the podcast, but I'm going to. And I always ask individuals, so if you could have X amount of money in the bank, what would that be and how would it make you feel? And then once they tell me, I'm like, look, as soon as you get there, there's going to be another number and another number. It's never going to produce the internal results that you're hoping for.
You nailed it. That was my experience. That was part of my realization too, was just that. Because, look, when I was going to school, when I was young, we didn't have hardly any money, man. I remember one time losing my baseball glove, or thought I lost it. My dad about killed me because that glove, I look back now, it was like $36, but that took him, a while to make. And, that enough money to pay for that glove. So to lose one. So when I finally got to a place when I was working for a consulting company, I'm making like good money as far as I feel, $19.99, whatever. And I had a nice car, my little German car, little BMW, whatever. I'm thinking, I should definitely be feeling fulfilled now or happy now. But I actually felt worse as a result of all that, because in some ways I was seeing through the illusion that is the world, that is stuff, that is achievement and acquisition. And that's not to discourage people from, going after their dreams or realizing their goals or anything like that. But you're absolutely right. Like fulfillment and happiness is not found in the world, period. Like it's just not like, and I've searched like everywhere for it and I've never found it there, every day.
But what I will say is money and things will intensify happiness once you've found it, has been my experience.
It's a magnifying glass. Exactly. It's it's like power, money, fame. Those are magnifying glasses. So they magnify what's already there, right? And so you're right. If you're already happy, it'll magnify the happiness. If you're already unhappy, it'll magnify that, But I will say that after, decades really of just practicing every sort of tip, trick, technique and listening to every teacher I could possibly find, and just really with an eye on really a single focus of just experiencing as deep peace and happiness as possible, there's nothing that lets me feel more at peace or more truly blissful than simply not thinking. Like when my mind is quiet and I'm just breathing and I'm not aware of the world or the people in the world, and I'm not even barely aware of myself, I feel perfect peace, perfect peace. And that took a while though to get there, because everybody would tell me, do the meditation or mindfulness or this or that. But I will say that like, that's the one thing I've discovered along the way, and lots of other things too. But that one thing has brought me more abiding and lasting and meaningful peace. And by peace, I mean like deep aliveness, a sense of aliveness. It's not a boring sort of boredom like thing. It's a real aliveness. Just not thinking so much.
I love it. I mean, I share it all the time from stages and on podcasts and with my community. And I thought for so long that I wanted all of these things in life, the external things. And what I realized after, getting stopped, in my heroin addiction and, sent to prison. At the end of my incarceration, when I found, the spiritual world and the transformational world, 13 years ago, and I dove into it, what I found was all I ever wanted was a good night's sleep.
Dude, boom, boom, dude. What? First of all, like you've been through some stuff, man. Like, are you kidding me right now? Just what you just shared in that 5 seconds, 10 seconds there. Second, you never lied. Like, that's been my experience. Exactly right. Like, and it's interesting. I remember reading a book, spiritual teacher, Ramana Maharshi, and he said something like, so simple. He said, everyone loves sleeping. Like, we all love sleeping. And the reason you love sleeping, particularly the dreamless state, when you're not dreaming, he said, the reason you love it so much is because your mind is crystal clear and quiet. You're not thinking about or of anything. And so sleep, like even when I was depressed, I mean, that's the wisdom and intelligence that's innate in all of us. Like when I was most depressed, I wanted to sleep the most. And I didn't make the connection at the time, but I loved sleeping so much because I wasn't thinking about anybody or anything at all. I was just in that place of perfect peace that we all are one with and essentially is us when our mind is quiet. So I love you saying that, man. That was my experience too, but it's taken me, decades to finally make sense of it and to integrate it into my life in a real way.
And and then I want to get into the goods now. And isn't it crazy that once you find purpose and you tap into a life that you love, you don't want to sleep?
Yes, you nailed. I love you saying that. And you said so much. There's so much, everything. I think it's hard unless somebody's sort of done as much work as you've done. It's hard to hear everything like what you just said was packed with so much. The one thing I heard, okay, is that and I've discovered in my own life is there's like an inner purpose and an outer purpose. Our inner purpose is all shared, man. Like the inner purpose is just being happy. Everybody wants to be happy. Some people see that it comes in a different color or fragrance or whatever people think it does for them as opposed to somebody else. But deep down inside, we all want that inner purpose, which is happiness. We all share that. But then there's the outer purpose, which is like how that inner purpose like manifests in the world, right? And for everybody, that's different and it unfolds differently. And even different periods of your life, your outer purpose will be different. And so all that being said is what you just said in terms of like coming around to realize this inner purpose and then see it sort of manifest itself in the world, unfold in the world. You're right. Like I love sleeping, but it's not nearly as good as being awake. It's not nearly as great as as a sort of this waking state. There's just so much more aliveness there. So, nice dime you dropped right there, brother.
So you went from, I see why Justin connected us. I mean, I've seen it like 15 times now. He's actually texting me while I'm in the game. He knows where we're connecting. So you take the action regardless of what your mind's telling you. You move to Miami, you're on the beach, you're down there. How the heck do you get from, down there to LA? And I mean, you have a list of accolades about 1.5 miles long. And I know the process, but for my audience, like how did you vet the opportunities and how did you keep moving forward to get to where you are today?
Yeah. So, I'm going to be honest, man. Like it wasn't intelligence and it wasn't, I wasn't strategic. I'd like to think that I was, and I was trying to be strategic and I was trying to be smart about it. But quite frankly, I really surrendered to just wanting to be happy, man. Like that was just the one thing. Okay. And so if it didn't make me happy, I tried not to do it unless it was absolutely necessary. So in the beginning, I left that consulting company and I was going to business school. And then I was paying for business school by doing entertainment related stuff. Even the entertainment related stuff, I didn't chase. I didn't pursue. I was just like, I'm going to be happy, but I need to find a job. And
I want to entertainment related. Because when I hear that, I think you were stripping.
Yeah. Almost. I was a model. Basically, it's what it feels like. I was like modeling, bro. Like I never in my life thought I'd be a model. And I remember actually watching, I'm going to age myself, but like there was a show called Wild On, like Brooke Burke, and they've gone to South Beach and they showed models and they were playing volleyball all the time. They seemed like they were making decent money, but they had great lives. I remember thinking about that when I was in Miami. It's part of the reason actually I even found Miami interesting because I had seen that show at some point. So anyway, I'm in Miami and I'm just walking down this popular sort of little road called Lincoln Road. And a guy comes up to me and says, "Hey man, you ever modeled before?" And I thought he was joking with me. I thought he was messing with me. So I was like, no, bro, like that's not me. I don't do that. Like, and he's like, well, you should consider it. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way. I always felt very deeply that I was like the ugliest person on the planet, man. That's how I felt. So I was like, either this guy's kind of messing with me, or I don't even know, but I'm not interested. So after a few weeks went by and I'm looking for jobs down there and I can't find anything, I meet another guy that comes up to me and says something very similar, like, you should check out the modeling agencies down here, man. Like, I don't know if you have a job or what you do, but like, just check it out. So finally got to a place where I needed to pay the bills and I wasn't doing that effectively. So I went to one of the modeling agencies that the guys gave me a card for. They said, yeah, we'll take you on. So they put me on the men's board and I started going to castings and auditions. And I didn't really feel like I had ever fit into that world. But what happened was, because I was obsessed with my happiness books and my Don't Kill Yourself books, I would go to these castings, and while I'm waiting to shoot or whatever, I'm reading my books and I'm talking to people behind the scenes just about what makes them happy and what they've discovered about happiness. And lo and behold, years and years and years go by, man. I'm promoting parties too on the side. I'm doing whatever I can to just put enough money together happily to pay for my rent and stuff and pay for my scooter, because I traded my German cars in. I had 2 of them for scooter because I was like, no, I'm just about happiness. I'm not about all this other stuff. I eventually booked a role in this show called the CW. It was on the CW called South Beach. And, I met a woman there, Vanessa Williams, and we became friends, and more than that later. And, she just always would say, hey, Rob, you love happiness, man. Like, you should really just open up a private practice and offer that, to people, help spread the light and love in this world. And that was something I already was thinking about. So I just opened my own little private practice, and I didn't do anything right in setting up that practice, man. Like, honestly, if I didn't like it, if it wasn't fun for me, I kind of didn't do it. And people would say, Rob, you should do this and you should do that. And I knew they were right, like, objectively, but if it didn't call me, if I wasn't inspired by it, I just didn't do it, man. I was kind of lazy that way, So over time, though, opportunities kept coming my way. And it wasn't like I just wasn't bombarded with them. It'd be like 3 months and I'm barely paying the rent, or I'm not paying the rent. I got to borrow money from my dad or whatever, but something would ultimately always come along eventually, So one of the things that I did do, though, when I was tracking like what was leading to a happy life and what wasn't, I was turning that into a book. And not because I wanted to be published. I just wanted to make sure I remembered what made me feel happy. And if I met people along the way that also wanted to be happy, I wanted to share with them. So I just, turned it into a book. That book later became Happiness from the Inside Out. I sent it to 30 publishers. Nobody was interested. Most of them didn't even write back. And then along the way, I heard about this one publisher, and through connections, I was able to like just basically pitch them. And they said, hey, actually, that sounds like a pretty good idea. We haven't had anyone like you, write a book like that. So write the book. And, and then things just kept kind of coming along. But it wasn't like, this is 20 years in the making, you know what I mean? And the one thing I'll say is that I can't really give myself credit or take responsibility for any of the good things that happened. At my very best, man, I just focus on being at peace and being happy and getting out of my own way. And sometimes people find that interesting or attractive, or they want to be a part of that, and or they want me to be a part of something they're doing. And then an opportunity comes along. But everything
are you open to some coaching?
Dude, absolutely. I mean, my whole life I've been surrounded by coaches of different kinds, right? Like,
so you just said something that I don't believe. But you also coupled it with a belief that you have yourself. And so you said, like, I can't claim any of this, but I believe that you should be claiming it all. And the reason why I'm saying that, and I believe in God, universe, spirit, I'm a spiritual being. I'm into it. But I believe that the responsibility that we have as spiritual beings is something that you took full responsibility of. And what I talk to, not to promote my work on your recording, right? But in the Purpose Chasers Academy, it's something that I highlight greatly, in which I tell the individuals that come in, it's not going to make any sense. But once your mindset shifts and you go from scarcity to abundance, and we get rid of your limiting beliefs, they're never going to go away, but you're going to learn how to play with them and rock them. And you get into the proper mindset, opportunities are going to present themselves to you. But the accomplishment of those opportunities are your responsibility. You can credit the universe for presenting these things, But I just want to acknowledge you and challenge you a little bit that you sat on that cushion. You continued to go within. Like, those opportunities, in my experience, would never have been presented had you not owned the need and the necessity to continue to do that inner work.
I love that, dude. And I fully receive that. And thank you for that. I love that you highlight that in that way. And I completely agree with you. Like, sometimes I think, and sometimes this is part of the challenge with like almost a post-produced story of your life. Because for the most part, at that period of time, I was very much in my head. And I thought, not that just that I had a mind, but that I was my mind. And it sounds kind of funny, but that's the way I kind of felt, which was like, I got to figure things out and this and that. And I would always find it funny because I'd call my mom and I'd say, man, I'm working so hard at trying to sell these seminars or workshops or whatever, because I want to spread happiness so much. And then she'd always remind me and say, honey, everything for you has come out of thin air when you actually relax, when you actually step back from trying to force everything and trying to figure everything out and try to think through things. So in the beginning, when I was very much identified with my mind, I struggled with that. And then as I sort of continued to evolve and realize and recognize that the best things that have ever happened to me have happened when I've relaxed on the inside. Maybe I've continued taking action on the outside, but it's inspired action. It's action that's in spirit. And it's not action that only comes from my head or comes from my mind or comes from my thoughts, but action that's coming from deep inside my own heart. I call it your spiritual heart or spirit itself. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. And I love you saying that. It's so profound. It's kind of like when Jesus says, oh, Son of Man and Son of God, it's kind of referring to both pieces of himself, but there's a deeper identity that feels a total connectedness and oneness with source itself, right? And so that was my, taking a while, but that's my transition where I feel much more comfortable and much more clear that I'm at my best when I'm resting in and as source or presence or God or life or the universe. It's like whatever that life force is that keeps the earth rotating on its axis, revolving around the sun, and just far enough away from the sun not to burn up, but also just far enough to not freeze. Like whatever that is, that also keeps my heart beating and my lungs breathing and my brain orchestrating and all, whatever that is also me. And so in the same way that I don't need to pray or visualize or think about the sun shining down on me, like I don't need that, I don't need to do that to happen. In the same way I feel success and abundance and wealth kind of flows through me when I'm clear in recognition and realization that I'm one with that infinite, eternal, faceless, formless presence that is life itself. So yeah, I love what you're saying.
We just got deep.
I know. I was feeling
Rob
it, man.
Rob just went deep on us. Give him some coaching, man, and all of a sudden he's giving a talk. So, man, I love what you just shared, because so many individuals, and there's another piece of acknowledgement that I have to sit with, because I'm a humble to my own self-sacrifice, right? My humility turns into self-sacrifice. And
dude, it takes one to know one, bro. That you could say that a dozen times, it wouldn't be enough.
Yeah. So there's this, there's been this buzz out in the world, in the world of self-help or personal development or whatever you want to call it. The whole, manifesting. And if I visualize and become, and, I'm going to manifest this and manifest that, but opportunities are going to present themselves. And that's when I get to show up, and I have to be spiritually fit or have the proper mindset, because if I don't, once I start taking the actions to fulfill on those things, I'm going to stop. And that's what happens to most people. And when you stop, your self-esteem withers away and you lose pieces of yourself. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How many good, I'm using air quotes if you're not watching the video, how many good opportunities have you turned down as a result of not feeling in alignment, and have better opportunities been presented as a result of saying no?
Man, that's a good question, dude. So I would say that I, for the most part, like my default is people pleasing. So if an opportunity's come along, even if I felt like I was an imposter, or even if I felt like I wasn't good enough for it or I wasn't ready for it, I've usually almost always said yes, right? Now, that doesn't mean that I showed up for that opportunity in the best way possible, because usually I was super anxious and I would self-doubt And so I would often compromise my performance and my achievement with that particular opportunity. Now, there have been plenty of opportunities, though, that I've actually, I can remember sort of saying, no, I'm not going to do that or whatever for various reasons, sometimes insecurity, sometimes and almost always something better does and has come along. Like even when I thought I missed a train, it's like all of a sudden the plane comes. I'm like, wow, I didn't think, I guess on some level I probably did think that there was a better opportunity to come along. But there's something about not investing your happiness and fulfillment in people, places, or things that allows you to access a power and a presence that allows better people, places, and things to come along. It's just like every time, the mistakes I've always made is when I've begun to think that the channel's the source kind of thing, like this opportunity that comes along that, oh my gosh, I missed it, or I'm going to miss it, or I'm not good enough for it, and everyone's going to come along again. But that has always been a huge delusion, right? To basically focus on the world instead of focusing on that power and presence within me. So I love what you're saying. Yes, better opportunities have almost always come along. And just when I think I've missed something or I sabotage something or whatever, or compromise myself in some way, something comes along more easily, it's bigger and ends up being a lot more helpful and supportive in my life and in my work. I mean, TV is a good example of that, man. I mean, I was chasing opportunities, I was pitching shows to TNT, I was pitching shows to NBC and ABC and trying to get like on anybody's, schedule so I could pitch a show. And then someday I was like, you know what, Rob, you're getting distracted again, man. Like it's great to chase or pursue your goals and your dreams, but you said you wanted to be happy. If you really want to be happy, that has to always come first. You got to always prioritize. And I said, you know what? I can keep chasing and pursuing, but it comes from a different place when you're like already perfectly happy and fulfilled, and you're doing it because it's fun, because you feel inspired to do it, not because you have expectations that it's going to deliver more happiness or that in some way it's going to make your life, 100 times better. And then suddenly, lo and behold, somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, do you want to do this show on E? It's called Famously Single. Or do you want to do this show on OWN? It's called Mind Your Business. And I'm like, wow, I thought I kind of had surrendered and given up, not completely, just given up the struggle around the TV stuff. And I took my foot off the pedal. And all of a sudden, these other opportunities that are way bigger, way better, and way a better fit for me came along.
More aligned.
Yes,
That's been my experience. I love a good no. I really do. I mean, I read a book that really, really changed me right before little man was born. It was called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And I have a vetting process now, whether it's an individual that wants to book me to speak or a podcast interview or anything that fills space in my life. I have a vetting process. Like I have criteria that I run the opportunity through. And, I take that with me into something that my father taught me. And that is never deny an opportunity to talk about money.
Oh,
right.
Smart dad right there. I know you were gonna...
So you've gotten bigger, television opportunities. What is bringing you happiness out in LA? And I say that because a lot of the behind the scenes that I see in LA is a lot of drama. I've never been there. For those of you listening, stay tuned for me to go out there. I'm flying out there. I'm going to go on Rob's show. What is the title of it?
Ever Talk Live.
Yeah, Ever Talk Live. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to see LA. It's been on my bucket list, but I have to admit I'm scared. I've heard a lot of negative things about LA, which leads me to asking you, what's the source of your happiness out there? Like, what are you doing that brings happiness to you?
Boy, so I love this. I'm going to say, real quick, I just want to highlight something you said, and I'm going to go dive right into the question. I remember reading a quote by Warren Buffett that took me a while to really appreciate, and you just shared it in a much more even eloquent and efficient way. He basically said the difference between successful and extraordinarily successful people is that extraordinarily successful people say no to practically everything. And that I am learning, through time, you begin to learn that if you don't say no to things, you get consumed and absorbed in other people's goals and their dreams and their desires. And it's great to contribute, but you very quickly leave behind your own. So I love you saying that. In terms of LA, I'm going to answer that sort of a number of levels. So the deepest truth for me is that nothing in LA makes me happy, and nothing in LA particularly makes me unhappy because I don't invest it there. I really don't invest it there. Now, that being said, lots of things enhance my happiness in LA. So they don't, they encourage me to be happy. They enhance the happiness I already have. And I'd say one is, I love, of course, the warm weather. I'm always great about weather. I love the opportunity that exists here, both personally and professionally, just for connecting with like-minded people, for having this kind of conversation. But clearly, you see, you don't need to be in LA to have a phenomenal conversation with a phenomenal person. But then beyond that, I'd say what I'm most enjoying and appreciating is that this experience of mine, like both within and outside of the entertainment business, both my coaching practice, my coaching business, and the books and stuff, is that it feels more like play now. Whereas the first 2 times I moved to LA, this is my 3rd time moving to LA. The first 2 times did not take, like, when you work out real hard and the shower doesn't take, like take another shower because you're still sweating. It was like that. It didn't take in LA because I forced it. And 2, I was taking it way too seriously. And this time I'm not taking it nearly as seriously. I'm taking it as sincerely, right? So if somebody asks me to do something, I show up and I deliver. But I'm having more fun with it, and I'm keeping it much more playful, and I'm not getting lost in this game that is entertainment or that is a TV show, or I'm not getting lost as easily because I'm consistently reminded that I'm at my most peaceful and at my happiness, and I feel most self-loving when I'm simply at home, laying on the ground, breathing, and not thinking about any of it. It's fun to think about, it's fun to do, but like when my mind is quiet, man, and I'm sitting on a TV set, or I'm sitting, just listening to something, but my mind is mostly quiet, it's like unparalleled peace and unprecedented happiness. And so I can have that anywhere, LA, Pittsburgh, Miami, wherever. I do kind of prefer it, again, in LA and in Miami, but I find it everywhere and anywhere because, I'm taking it with me wherever I go. So I'd say that that's the experience with me, is that the people that seem to do the best in LA for the long run, like probably most cities, are the people who are highly emotionally regulated, meaning they're very much emotionally intelligent, they're self-aware, and they don't outsource this happiness and peace thing to other people or to the industry or to their work or to any of that.
Yeah, we just moved from Austin. We spent 4 years in Austin. I took a job and then ended up quitting after meeting who was to become my first business mentor, and then launched multiple companies. And we're now in Philly. So we moved right outside of Philly.
You love Philly, man. I basically grew up in Philly. I grew up in Pittsburgh, but I went to 2 schools in Philly, and I worked for the consulting firm. I love Philly, man. I want a cheesesteak this weekend, really. But I love Philadelphia, man.
I'll eat one for you.
Oh, good. Please eat 2, bro. Me too. I at least eat 2.
So, Rob, I want to ask you, what message would you share with an individual that's right now getting in their car, turning on the podcast and listening and really relating to what you've shared and your journey? What starting point could you give them?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So first of all, not only can you be, do, or have anything you want, but you already do and already are and already have everything you could possibly imagine. You just haven't tapped into it. And I don't mean that takes time. It doesn't take time. It just takes commitment and a decision. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing I'd say, there's this idea, and I discovered really early on how many of my beliefs were limiting. And I think you talk about this and talk to this very eloquently, man. And I would say 2 things. One, yes, we all have and entertain limiting beliefs that prevent us from doing things we really want to do or being things we really want to be. And we've got these stories in our head that basically prevent us from taking action. But that doesn't have to be the case. And more than that, more than just exploring the limiting beliefs you have and getting those out of the way, I would say that all beliefs are limiting and limited. So there's a space and a place, like a spaceless place and a placeless place within you where no thinking is required, where no beliefs or concepts are required. And you can experience, and will only really experience, the kind of lasting and meaningful and abiding peace that I'm talking about, or happiness. And from that place, without even doing a whole lot in the world, you'll find that a lot of good things just find their way to you, right? And so I guess what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to require so much hard work. It doesn't have to require figuring everything out. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to do any of these things. If you can find that place within you where you feel perfect peace and happiness, you'd be shocked and surprised at the ways in which opportunities show up for you, consistently. And so to that end, I'll say two things. The greatest practice I've ever discovered in my life sounds so paltry, it sounds so trivial, but it's the best thing, the most transformative thing I ever discovered. It's called a micro meditation. And a micro meditation is just one breath, okay? And you take this one breath and only one breath with one goal and purpose in mind. It's simply to enjoy that breath like it's the last breath you'll ever take on the planet, like it's the last one you get, okay? And you want to milk it for every little drop of joy you can get out of it while you let your thoughts go. Now, I practice that micro meditation as often as possible throughout the day, no matter what else I'm doing. And that one single thing has allowed me, first of all, to experience more peace, to relax more deeply when I'm doing anything. So it lets me get into like a psychological state of flow more quickly. The important thing about flow is that when you're in flow, you're tapped in, tuned in, turned on, and you're like 500 to 1,000% more effective and efficient at everything. So instead of it taking a year and a half to do something, all of a sudden, because you took this one breath, you have an insight, and in a flash, you're able to see something you didn't see before and have an insight that prevents you from spending 500 days doing something you can do in one day, just because this one insight. And so, it only takes one great idea to be successful or to be happy, but I'd say micro meditations are like one of the greatest things you can ever begin to practice, and to do it no matter what you're doing, who you're with, or where you're at. Like that one thing will change your life. If you took nothing else away from this whole entire conversation, that one thing, just practicing quieting your mind, is like gold.
We're going to end right there. So, Rob, thank you so much, man. Guys, go check out his work at Coach Rob Mack. Is it .com? I thought it was .co, but it's because I had the screen minimized. So coachrobmack.com. Check him out. You're probably going to be shocked by his accolades, which we didn't really talk about. He's up to some great stuff. He's making moves in the industry and in life. And it really fills me with joy to hear how humble you are, because I want to remain humble. I really do.
One thing I'll say about you spot it, you got it, man. That's one of my favorite expressions. So anything I see in the world, think in the world, I know I got it inside. So you definitely are that. Everything you said about me, man, you have, and you know that. And the other thing is, it's interesting, man, because this conversation right here is like the highlight of my week, man. It's like one of the highlights of my whole month, man. Like I live for these conversations, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you having me on the show. And I cannot tell you how much I'm grateful for the work that you do, man. Like it's this conversation, it's this podcast that I needed when I was 12, 13, 15, 25, 35. So I love that you're doing that. And the other thing, I will agree with you, man. I think in terms of the humility part, just having it on your radar means that no matter how far you over-index for confidence or arrogance, you're always going to remain and feel authentic to people. You're always going to feel humble to people. And that's just my own discovery, that like no matter how hard I try to over-index to be more confident and even verging to the point of being arrogant, at the end of the day, man, like your heart is your heart. And I feel that through the screen. So thank you for that.
Man, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure interviewing you. And guys, go check out his work as well. Also, stay tuned for the interview that I'm going to do out in LA with him and his people. I'm excited. It's been on my bucket list for some years, and I think I've been to San Diego like 3 or 4 times, but I've not ventured that far. So I'm excited to get out there. Really, really excited to know you more. I feel like our paths are going to cross much more. And I'm just grateful to know you, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, bro. I'm looking forward to having you on the show, man. LA is going to love you. You're going to love LA. That's for sure. Looking forward to staying in touch, man.
Take care.
All right, brother. Anybody.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Chasers podcast. If you're ready to take action, don't wait. Head over to thepurposechasers.com to access notes, resources, and a host of other tools to keep you moving forward. And if you want to supercharge your digital presence, visit scaletosaleconsulting.com to partner up with my team and amplify your impact. Let's turn your purpose into your biggest asset. Until next time, keep chasing, keep creating. Your purpose awaits.